Hi, how are you? I'm Candace, and today I thought I would debunk 5 myths about the European witch hunts. So, for those of you who don't know about the European witch hunts, between about 1450 till approximately 1750 in early modern Europe, um, there were people accused and sometimes killed for witchcraft. That's about all you need to know, and I'll get to my little list here. So, the first myth, which I think is probably the biggest myth that I've heard about the witch hunts, is that only women were executed, only women were accused of being witches, and that it was a woman's Holocaust. This is simply untrue. About a fifth to a quarter of the witches or the people accused of witchcraft were men, and they were. It depended on your place in society. So if you had a vulnerable place in society, you were more likely to be accused of witchcraft, and women were more vulnerable in society than men. However, there were about 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 people accused of witchcraft were men. So the second myth is that men were considered wizards or warlocks, but in reality, everybody was considered a witch. Witch is actually a gender neutral term. And so if you said he's a witch and he was a witch, then you'd be accurate. But of course, if he wasn't a witch, you wouldn't be very accurate. But you'd be accurate in calling him a witch, accusing him with the word witch, because witch is actually a gender neutral term. So I know that it evokes the popular Halloween idea of like an old woman with a wart and a crooked nose and like a big hat and stirring a cauldron and flying on a broomstick. But while a lot of that stuff actually came from early modern Europe, men could be accused as well. That's what I'm trying to get at. Okay, next myth is that witches in the Middle Ages were drowned. So if you've ever heard of the trial by water, it's when they put the witch, the accused, into a pool of water and they see if they float or drown. If you float, the water is supposed to represent your baptismal waters, and so if you float, that means the baptismal waters are rejecting you, making you a witch. And then if the baptismal waters accept you and embrace you, then you drown, but you don't actually drown. You just sink, and then they fetch you out of the water. They will haul you out because they don't want to just kill innocent people who are, considered not witches. So that was the third. The fourth one is that all witches were burned at the stake, all the people accused. So that's actually not true because witches or people accused of witchcraft were oftentimes not actually found guilty. Maybe not often, but it was probably about a 50-50 chance that you'd be found guilty. And if you were found guilty, you weren't automatically put to death, because sometimes you would just get a fine and you'd be told not to do it again. And sometimes they were burned. I mean, they were burned often enough that we remember it in our collective history. But in England, actually, I should mention, in Britain, it was against the law to burn people at the stake, and so they actually just hanged the people accused of witchcraft instead of burning them. So, fun fact. Okay, and the fifth myth that surrounds witch hunts that I will go over today is that like a million people were accused of witchcraft and burned at the stake. Well, actually, those numbers are inflated by witch hunters themselves of the time. They probably inflated the numbers to make themselves look better. And according to the book that I read, that I am going to cite in my description, is they say, and other people as well have said, the number is probably around 90,000 people. So 90,000 people were accused of witchcraft, probably. So about 90,000 trials, and probably like 45 to maybe 50,000 of those people, or maybe a little bit more, I'm not sure, were burned at the stake or were executed for their crimes. So there you have it. Those are 5 witchcraft and witch hunt myths. surrounding the European witch hunts. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, you know what to do.